So now that we're able to pick up the item and set the animator's value for the equipped item to 1, which represents our power flower, what we're going to want to do is switch the animation of the player to reflect that change. Again, let's make sure that we drag the animator window up to the top, and we're going to add a few new animations. As you can see, our animator is actually becoming a little bit messy. We have a whole bunch of different states, and now, in order to show that we have a power flower equipped, we're going to have to duplicate all these states all over again. Now, one way that we can do this is to create a substate. If you right-click in the space, you'll see Create Substate Machine. We'll select this, and you'll see we'll have a new state. We're going to call this Power Flower. And let's double-click on it. Now, once you double-click on it, you'll see we have a completely new canvas for us to work in. But this is just a sub-canvas of the base layer. So one thing that we can do is let's select our player. We'll go into our animation panel, and let's create a whole new animation. Here, we're going to call this animation Player Power Idle Animation. And let's make sure to save this inside of our animations folder. Now, we'll change the sample rate to 12. And in our artwork folder, let's filter out the flower animation. We'll simply type in flower into the search, and let's filter out by textures. Here, you'll see we have the player flower idle. Let's drag this over to the first frame. We'll save our changes. Now, one thing you'll notice is that the animation actually didn't show up inside of the power flower. If we go to our base layer, you'll see that we now have this new animation, the player power idle animation. Now, we can drag this over to our new substate, and when we open up our substate, we'll now have this new instance. Now, just like we did before, we're going to want to connect this up to our AnyState. We'll make a transition from AnyState to the power idle, and we'll check the connection and make sure that our transition duration is 0 and that can transition to self is disabled. And at the bottom, we'll go through and do all the things that we did before, like set up our anim state, and we'll make sure that it equals 0. But in this case, we want to add a new condition. And now we have equipped item. Here, we're going to make this equals as well, and since we're in the power flower, we're going to set this to 1. Remember when we were running our game and we picked up the flower, equipped item became 1. If we save this and run the game, let's take a look at what happens. Here, we'll pick up the flower, and all of a sudden, what you'll see is that we're switching between both of these animations really quick because the state machine can't tell where it needs to be. We'll stop the game, and let's take a look at why. Now, if we were to go to our idle animation and select our transition from any state into the normal idle animation, you'll see that we don't have a condition for which item needs to be equipped. So if we go in and create equipped item and make this equal 0, which is the default item equipped, and rerun the game, we should be able to fix this problem. Here, we'll walk over, and now you'll see the player changes his animation. And inside of our animator window, we are now inside of the power flower state. Let's stop this, go back into our base layer, and update each one of these so that they have their own equipped item and that value is equal to 0. We'll just work clockwise through all the transitions. So at this point, we're ready to actually add the rest of the animations we need, which we'll do in the next video. Let's make sure that we save our changes before moving on.